So singles and doubles, again, it really depends on if, again, you can do it, I do it, but again, you got to keep in mind the time. So in Stockton, I do the seawall court, I do a singles and doubles. I make sure I start early. I'll usually do a 2 out of 3 format and keep it going. And then singles, I'll sometimes just do one game to 15 or, just one game traditional 12 point. It just depends on how many people show up. If you get a lot of people, then you're pushing it. So I usually draw about 25, maybe under 30 people. Not everyone plays singles. Some people just do doubles. So, it all depends on how many people you draw and how much time you have, and then the court you're using and the scoring format. It's all factors. But again, you can kind of feel it out. So, yeah, I mean, you can do singles or doubles on one day. I have done it. If you do a 2-day tournament like I do indoor, and I do many divisions, you can do them in one day, 2 days. It just depends, again, on the scoring format. If you do point on serve, it's going to be a lot longer. That's why small ball tournaments usually are 2-day tournaments, sometimes 3 days. Or they'll cap it. They'll put a limit. Like this tournament, 16 teams. So they cap it. So you can do that as well. You can cap it at 16. And then, the same thing for the doubles. You can cap it maybe 8 teams or 16. Again, it just depends on how many courts you have and how much time you have. How many players should I have? Smallest amount versus largest. I've had tournaments, maybe 8 people, maybe less than that. We do a round robin. If you have anything less than 8, you can do a round robin. Say you have 5 people, have each person play each other one game. Keep track of the scoring, and then you can kind of maybe narrow it down to your 2 best players and then have them go at it. Or just whoever wins the round robin. It's all really how you want to do it. I would say biggest, again, Iceman we have has a lot of divisions, a lot of players. You have 100 plus players. But, it all depends on the amount of courts and then how much time you have too. So you want to keep those things in mind as far as like how many people you're hoping to draw and time. So if you're having it open, you just kind of play it by ear, I guess, right? But the other thing to also consider is that you can have people sign up in advance. So like the Iceman, because I get shirts, because I offer food, and I already want to set up the divisions in advance because it gets hectic and you have a lot more going on than just one bracket. You want to already have an idea of who's going to be there. And so it's good to lock people in ahead of time. We have technology available to us now. People can do Apple Pay, Venmo, Zally. Prior to that, we were heavily using R2 Sports, which is they have a software to manage tournaments. You can sign up through there, and then the downfall of that is that you're not going to get the money instantly. It'll come to you in about a week. They'll issue you a check. That's the downfall of that. I used that at the last Iceman, but I also had this apps available, and the majority of the money came through the apps. People were, sending me money through Apple Pay, Zally, Venmo, and PayPal, and so forth. It alleviates a lot of stress. So then already you can do the draw in advance. You can give people their times. That's typically how small ball player tournaments do it. They'll have you sign up in advance. Or like in our region, they'll take your word for it, and people honor their word. I'm going to be there, you know what I mean? And you can always do a check-in with them maybe a day or 2 before. Hey, man, are you going to make it or you're not? Or usually what I was doing is hitting up people in advance, saying like, I have a deadline. And I would hit them up before the deadline like, hey, I need to receive your payment. This lets me know you're still going to play. And some people will say, oh, you know what, I'm not going to make it, man. So that lets you know, okay, man, thank you for letting me know. Boom. Then that's one person less you have to worry about. And then you can already do your draws in advance, and you can issue your times. So that's something to keep in mind. R2 Sports is still available, very useful. You can even be live on there doing the brackets, the seeding, and everything. It's a pretty cool application. Takes a little tinkering with, but once you get used to it, and it's very helpful. So that's one way. Okay, so 5 ways to promote your tournament. Uh, this is a major one here. Your phone. You have social media, Facebook, Instagram. You put up flyers, posts. You put it out there. Each page, each Facebook has multiple pages now of different handball clubs. You want to put it on there and promote it and push it. And you want to keep that like on a regular basis going consistently, just to keep putting it into people's heads, because attention spans are very short these days. So people are on to the next thing and they forget, so you want to remind them. Now and then you have people who are still in the Stone Ages who don't have social media. So don't think that just doing social media is going to work. There are some people that you just send them a text. You can send them a copy of your post, your flyer, and send it to them in a text. Or some people you can even call. Hey man, like for example, my Spanish is not that great. And I have some players that it's hard for me to text them in Spanish, so I'd rather call them and talk to them. Say, hey, I got a tournament this day, I'd like you to play in it. It's for your age group. You think you might play in it, so then you have an idea if they're going to play, or you let them know. So, your phone is great. Back in the days, I used to go around posting up flyers everywhere, and I still sometimes will do that, because then again, you have those people who might not have a phone, or you don't have their number, but they frequent the park, and so they're going to see your post, your flyer there on the pole, and then they'll know about the tournament. Word of mouth is another way, just letting people know, spreading the word, and that's the way it gets around too. R2 Sports, again, if you're using that website, they even have an option. If you pay for it, and they'll be advertising your tournament in advance. You can even make a video, like a promotional video. There's people now who offer their services, maybe $100, $200, and they'll promote your tournament, put some cool graphics. Maybe they have some footage from your last tournament that they can look up, or there's tons of footage on the internet now, right? On YouTube, there's tons of footage. They can take some of that, put some nice graphics and words, and promote your video, your tournament that way. It just all depends on how many people you're trying to draw and how big you want it to be. So if you're doing something that's like a pro or a major thing, then that's something that you want to consider, is putting it out there. So those are ways you can promote your tournament. To get tournament shirts or not, you can see I just got blessed with a brand new shirt today, and I love it. It's a form of advertising. People like, it's a cool shirt, man. Where'd you get it? Oh, I got it from, the Iceman tournament, or, the Hot as Hell tournament, or whatever that you call your tournament. And I'll talk about that as well. It's a form of advertising. At the same time, you got to keep in mind that there are those players that are never going to win a tournament, but they want to support. So you want to give them something that they can walk away with, Hey, I'm willing to play in this tournament. I know I'm not going to win, but at least I'm going to get a shirt. I'm going to get a plate of food. I'm going to get the experience. It's pretty cool. Again, it's a form of advertising. I always get happy when I see footage of people in Los Angeles, in New York, in other countries wearing one of the shirts from a tournament that I did. That's like, man, that's awesome. There's even people that aren't even going to play in the tournament, but, they see the design, because I always put it out there in advance. If you want to order one from me, let me know. And again, it's because I'm spreading the word in hopes that one day they will venture over to our area and play in a tournament. And it happens. I had a guy that is from Los Angeles, lives in Arizona, came to a tournament. I have a guy from Seattle who came to a tournament. I've been seeing your tournament, your posts, and I've been wanting to go for a long time, and finally I made it, So I would recommend that you do that. It's cool if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, if you don't have the money to come out your own pocket, or you can't factor it in the cost of what you're charging, sponsors. Sponsors are very helpful. You have to build up your courage to ask people for help. There's a lot of businesses out there who are willing to write off money, you know, for tax purposes, and they will give you money. And of course, you might get a lot of no's, but you got to be willing, and you got to be resilient, and you got to be willing to get no's. You know, I had a lot of pride, and I didn't ask. And then somebody encouraged me, and I just happened to see the person, and I was like, you know, I asked, and they blessed me with $500-600, and I was like, are you serious? You know what I mean? It's like I was like taken away, like, wow, man, are you serious? And he's like, hey, man, what you're doing is positive. Keep doing it. Okay, man, well, I'm going to put you on the shirt, you know, the business on the back of the shirt. That's the way I show my gratitude. And then I'll be like, okay, well, what size you wear? What size your wife wear? I don't want to just take care of them. I take care of their spouse as well. You know what I mean? Because it's a way of me saying thank you. And at the same time, I want to keep that going if they're willing to give, you know. I want to keep that going, that relationship going, because, again, I've had a strong sponsor like Stockton Monuments. You know, they've given me a lot, you know, and I always take care of them, and they appreciate it, and they see the positive thing that we're doing, and they want us to continue doing it. So, again, if you don't have the money yourself, get sponsors. Get sponsors to help offset that cost. Shirts cost around, when I was first getting them, about $6. Then they jumped to $7, $8. Now I'm like about $10. But you know, I get front and back. Usually just a basic T-shirt, one color, you know, ink. If I do any more than that, now you're talking $11, $12. So you know, you want to keep that in mind, okay? So if you got, you know, what 50 times 10, you're talking $500. You know, so that's how much you're gonna have to come up with. If you factor it into the amount, like sometimes I'll do it again. I'll find out who's coming. I'll take the word on it, and I'll see. I've already developed myself to where I have a surplus of money that I put aside, so that way I can use it to pay for the shirts in advance, and then I take the risk, you know. And this is why I only like to order a certain amount of people are telling me I'm gonna come, and you know what I mean. Oh, hey, cool. And then like I'll tell them, look, are you gonna come? You're not, because I'm gonna get rid of this shirt. So if you tell me, you know, I'm gonna hold it for you a week or two, and if you don't get it from me, then I'm gonna get it off to the next person. Sometimes I'll give it to somebody, or I'll just sell it for a cheaper price. I try not to hold on to it and get stuck with it, but you know, that's the risk that you take. So it is helpful to build up a reserve, and that way you can tap into it and use that to cover your expenses up front, and then recoup, you know, at the tournament. Or, you know, if you're taking signups in advance, you can recoup that way too. So however you want to do it. I always wanted to get shirts, and I would talk about it for the longest time, and then finally I said I'm going to do it, and I did it. And now it's like it's great to see so many people wearing the different shirts. I've been getting them since like 2013, so about 9 years strong. And it's cool, man. It's cool. Again, it's a form of advertising, and people appreciate it. I got a lot of tournament shirts that I wear often, and that I appreciate, you know. So, you know, it's up to you. Determining costs, what to charge, you got to know your population, but I do a variety. I'd say the highest that I've charged for a tournament, like a pro, $50, and that's kind of a deal. You're gonna get a shirt out of it, you're gonna get a meal, and you know, you're gonna play in the tournament, usually one division, because I'm offering sometimes money and plaques. So it depends what you're offering too. For example, you know, I'm going to have this tournament next weekend, King of Spring, at singles by age groups, free entry. And then I'm giving the winner $100 each division. Again, that's because I want to give, you know, and I didn't have the Iceman this year, so I still have a little bit of that money that I would normally utilize for that, and I'm going to put it to that, you know what I mean, to give it. I have the capability to do that, so I'm going to do it. Keeping in mind that there are those players who probably can't afford to play in these $50 tournaments, $40 tournaments, even 20, you know what I mean? So this is the opportunity for them to get in. At the same time, you know, uh, there are people who might feel intimidated to play against certain players, and this is opportunity. You ain't got nothing to lose. You know, it's a free tournament. I've done some $5 for just medals, first, second, third place. I've done some for 10, 20. It just depends. You know, you got to get a feel for your population. Typically, we'll do like this doubles here. It's $80 a team. You know, I got a shirt from it, and they got food. It's cool. I'm guaranteed 4 games. It's point on serve. It's not like the game is just going to be over really quick. And I'm guaranteed 4 games. I like the ambience. I like the environment. It's cool. That's not a lot. Of course, I'm going to spend money driving, traveling, you know, but this is something I enjoy doing, and it's okay. So cost depends on, again, you know, get a feel for your population. If you're just starting off, start off small. At the same time, you don't want to overcommit and fall into a hole, you know, where you're spending all this money, food, shirts, and then you don't have commitments. You know, then you're going to get stuck with it, and then you're going to get discouraged and upset and like, forget this. I do this for you guys. You don't want to come through and support and da-da-da-da. No, hey, for whatever reasons, people can't always make it, right? Or maybe they're just, you know, it was bad timing. Timing has a lot to do with it as well. That's why it's good to figure out, you know, depending where you're at. You know, California, we have a lot of sunshine. This year, we've had a lot of rain. You know, this is like old school weather. This is what spring should be like. You know, in the past years, it's been warm, even in December. So you're going to get rain now, and you have a rain date. You know, so for example, if it decides to rain next weekend, well, I'm going to push it to the following week or whatever. So this is also something to keep in mind. You don't want to put dates. Like if you're giving out trophies, medals, don't put a date. I recommend just put the year, but don't put a date. I learned that lesson, and I mean, it's not a big deal, but me, I'm a stickler for detail, and I just don't like if it says this date, and I wanted to have it that date. So something to keep in mind. Yeah. So again, you want to keep that in mind. The type of weather you have. Let's see. Yeah. So don't overcommit, right? You don't want to get stuck with that expense. It's good to get, you know, people to sign up in advance.